Hello, I'm Paul Stainton, and welcome to another lockdown interview. This time with a man who runs a fairly big church. That's Peterborough Cathedral. He's the vicar of Peterborough and the canon of Peterborough Cathedral. Ian Black, good morning. Welcome to the lockdown interviews.
Yeah, lovely to speak to you.
Yeah, a very eerie time, I would think, to be at Peterborough Cathedral. A very different time. Just tell us how things have changed, Ian.
Things have changed dramatically, and they changed overnight. One friend referred to this as going from an Odeon model of a church, like a cinema. You know, there's a show on, you turn up at that time, and you know there are set times, to Netflix model, where you download what you want to download when you want to watch it. And people are doing that. We have gone online, but we did that in the space of 2 days. So when it was announced that there was the lockdown, when there was no longer any public worship permitted, that came at us out of the blue. And I have to pay credit to the Church of England's digital training team, because within minutes they put out the offer of training. And so on the Tuesday we were locked down. On the Thursday I attended training by Zoom, which I'd never heard of before either. Now my day is full of Zoom. It's more full of Zoom than it is anything else. And
before this, most of us thought Zoom was a nice lolly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you know that would be really quite handy at the moment. It's quite hot. But, you know, I did this training by Zoom, and in the afternoon, I put out a video that said there will be a service from St. John's. I mean, I have two places to help, St. John's and also the cathedral, but St. John's was the one that I had my primary concern of for this. And I put out a video that said there will be an online service, live stream service, 9:15 on Sunday morning. And actually, I had no idea what that was going to involve and what that was going to include. But I just thought, we'll go with it, run with it. And by Sunday, 9:15, I pressed record, or pressed, the live stream button, and out it came.
So an amazing transformation, really. In just a few short days, you've gone from having congregations to talk to in the cathedral or St. John's Church, and you're online. I mean, but the churches now must, and the cathedral in particular must be quite an eerie place not to have people in there.
Churches are often different depending on the time of day and whether they are full of people or not. They just have a different atmosphere. They're not so much eerie. I mean, I haven't actually been in the cathedral for 2 months. I haven't been inside it. That's weird, because I live outside it. I've been in St. John's because that's my primary responsibility, and I'm now live streaming from there. And that feels strange, going in there and finding that the hymn numbers were still up from when we shut it down. And, the bits of paper lying around which had to be cleared up, and just, but they're strange. I don't find them eerie, actually, churches. I find them peaceful places, and they still are.
But they've been the centre of our lives for so many years, haven't they? They're where we go for births and christenings and deaths and marriages, and we can't do that anymore. And well, not at the moment, anyway. Strange for us then.
During the week, I did a funeral on Wednesday, and that was at the crematorium. It couldn't be in the church, but there were 10 mourners who were allowed to be present. Close family who had to socially distance from each other. They weren't allowed to be next door to each other. The pews and the crematorium chapel had been moved apart. Everybody else viewed it online. And I had no idea who was present. Normally you can see the congregation. You look out and you just get a sense of, there's an atmosphere, but this was just 10 people, and everybody else was somewhere on the internet. I don't even know how many people were there, to be honest.
But the cathedral and churches in particular have been beacons, have been tent pegs of society for so long, particularly the cathedral, which has held Peterborough together for so long. We need that, don't we? We need to feel it. We need to see it. We need to be part of it. And it's difficult for us at the minute.
It is. And when we reopen, we still don't really know exactly what we're going to be dealing with. So we don't know the full social distancing measures that will have to be in place. I mean, the beauty of the Cathedral and St John's is that they're big spaces, so we can do social distancing without too much difficulty, though that does reduce the number of people who can come in. What we don't know, of course, is whether people will want to come back at first, because quite a lot of people are still isolating and making sure that they're shielding themselves, and will do that for quite a long time. What has been hit is income, because none of us are receiving any events income or donations from casual visitors. There's no shop sales. Yesterday at St John's, we made a load of payments to some charities from last year's coffee shop donations, and that amounted to around £7,000. And we were able to do that. Next year, I actually don't know whether we'll make any payments. If the coffee shop doesn't open, there's nothing will come in. And it's that there are these hits which we're feeling as well as every other business is feeling as well. Everyone in the city is feeling the pinch. You know, some shops are just not, well, most shops are not even open.
So financially, charities that you normally support, you may struggle to support next year. What about the cathedral itself, or St John's itself? Because the cathedral's had financial problems in the past, hasn't it? And with no money coming in, where does that leave it financially?
It means it's a tight year, and that's being monitored to see what additional support there can be. But they're having to take very, very careful look at this. And I wouldn't want to say anything too advanced on that, but we are feeling the pinch, and there's just no tense about that. You can't pretend we're not. So if anybody's got, big donations they want to make, send some way, send them our way. We can make use of them.
Is that something that perhaps the cathedral is going to have to do? Is going to have to look to launch some sort of campaign to raise some money, do you think? We
will all have to do that. We'll have to look at how we're going to get the additional income in that we need. And there are people looking at it now. There's plans being put together in order to do that. So I'll let those be announced as they're announced.
In terms of society and in terms of, faith, do we just have to have faith that things are going to be better? Because we've not really been through anything like this before, have we? Can we come out the other side? Should we just have faith that it will get better? Will it bring us closer together?
It's pretty extreme, this, even if you go back in history. But there are places in the world where they have been through this. And this is where the aid agencies start to have things to teach us, because they work in disaster zones where there has been major pandemic, and lots of people have died, far more than have died in this country, because we have an advanced medical system and the NHS is just fabulous. So they have things to teach us. And one of the things they are able to talk about is being in the response phase, which is that immediate, we've got to get things sorted. How do we just keep going in an immediate crisis? Then they talk about the recovery phase, and that can be anything from 6 months to 12 months, where you're starting to work out what the new normal is and how we actually adapt and start to prepare for this. And then there is the reconstruction phase, which is 12 months onwards, where you rebuild in the new normal. What will come out of this, we can't fully predict, but people are saying, how can society be different when we're the other side? And there's lots of people asking about a more compassionate, a more loving, a more caring a society which is not so frenetic, which is not just seeking endless acquiring and grasping at things, but much more generous and gracious and seeing life as gift.
Ian, thank you for such a positive message of hope for the future. And I hope everything you say comes true. And I've seen people come close together. I've seen people be more tolerant with each other in queues. and outside supermarkets, and I've seen people, become slightly different. I think you're probably right. And you're going to be slightly different because you're going to be an online expert going forward, aren't you? You're going to be a video expert going forward.
Well, I mean, my training record over the last 8 weeks just knocks the last 8 years out of the water, really.
Ian, thank you for talking to us today. It's been an enjoyable lockdown interview. Much appreciated. That's the Reverend Ian Black, who's the Vicar of Peterborough and the Canon at Peterborough Cathedral, with an illuminating interview of life behind the scenes for the clergy and the church during lockdown. Thanks for watching.